Hi everyone, it's Natalie here. Welcome to my channel. So it is Sunday the 28th of March 2021 and it is the full moon. So in honor of the full moon and because we did this at the new moon, what I'm going to do is the general reading that will take us through the next 2 weeks until the new moon. This week um, in honor of the many Asian contributors to my spiritual path who I value deeply and have learned tremendously from. I'm going to use a deck that I have not used hardly at all, whether, for readings on my channel or some of you may not even be aware that I have it. But I'm going to work with the Spirit Keepers Tarot, Vitruvian edition. So if you didn't know, Benebell Wen is the creator of this deck. So naturally, it comes with its own, set of tomes, both of which I have, the medium white book and the book of maps, because they're so good and because each builds on the other. And for someone like me, it's really helpful not to feel overwhelmed, because while I may want the ginormous book of maps, what I really sometimes need in order just to dip my toes in is something a little more accessible, or even just the little white book. And I did just dip my toes in with the little white book the other day, and really, it's funny because before everything happened, with the shooting that took place on, I believe it was the 15th now. Yeah, beware the Ides of March, eh? Even before then, I had pulled it out because I realized, I'm ready to work with her book, work with the deck and with her book. Believe it or not, I spent a large portion of the time between like October, even earlier than that, when I started taking the Witchcraft Fundamentals class that she offers. From that point on, which I don't know when that was, sometime last summer, when I began that, from that point onward, I've been working my way through a large amount of her material. In fact, I just anointed myself with a bottle, with a few drops of her holy anointing oil, which I tried managed to make last year in December. Got it started, and then it came through to the new year and was completed. And her space clearing spray. I've now made that twice, and I love it so much. I can hardly tell you. I also, as I was kind of decompressing from my client last fall, I worked with her. Basically, it was her entire methodology for ridding yourself of negative attachments, right? Malefic attachments. So I worked my way through that as well. It was tremendously beneficial. I can't even tell you, like every time I pick up, and then immediately after that, I began making the holy anointing oil. So I was making that, thankfully, at a point in time when I was feeling really, really good. And so every time I pick it up and use it, I feel lifted back up to that place, which is extremely good and extremely helpful. What else do I want to say? The spread that I'm about to do is, that everyone has become familiar with on my channel, who, those of you who have become familiar with it on my channel, I don't know that everybody has. I mean, some people have. It's one that I learned from Benebell. She did a video, a Sight See the Tarot video about this spread, and I became fascinated with it and began using it, and it's completely changed the way that I read cards and understand tarot. So, pretty significant, right? Pretty significant. So in honor of her and of everything I mentioned too, aside from purchasing the deck and purchasing the Witchcraft Fundamentals course, everything else that she offers that I've even mentioned is free. So her learning and her lifetime of work and devotion to what she does as a creator and as a magician and as a witch, all of it is stuff that she, for the most part, offers very freely. So yeah, I have just tremendous admiration and respect and an appreciation for that level of generosity and kindness. So Benebell, thank you. Um, she's made a pretty huge difference to my ability to just kind of find ways to integrate. I've said this before in other videos, but to integrate, Eastern philosophy and practice with Western philosophy and practice, which as a Buddhist I value tremendously. So without further ado, I think we should probably go ahead and start. But first, I'm going to take a quick sip of water. I'm still feeling dehydrated. I just got my second Moderna vaccine on Friday, and I felt great all day Friday. I got it at like 11:30 in the morning, and then I was fine. I slept fine Friday night, and thought, yeah, middle of the night when I woke up to pee, I was like, I got this. Woke up Saturday morning, and I felt like hell. So I spent most of my day Saturday the 27th, and you can still hear my voice is tight, and everything's a little bit sort of not great. My face is swollen, and my lymph nodes are up, and it just pushes all those little weak areas that you have. But I have no regrets. I have no regrets. I'm so glad I got the vaccine. The first one, I just had some headaches. The second one, it really was like having the flu. It really, really was. So that's also why I'm kind of late getting this out. I was early with the one I did on last week. I had filmed it right away. I think right after the fundraiser, maybe, which feels like a million years ago. And so, I mean, I probably would have used Benebell's deck last week, except this is maybe better because now I can actually use the deck in a spread that the deck was designed for. So there we are. And also, which way do I have to go this way? We have a little guest visitor here. There are birds outside the window. So Trinley is back there. And Marty might come back. The boys know. I've had to rearrange a lot of things in here because the boys know that they're messing with Mama's space. And Mommy started closing the door unless it's like a sanctioned time where they're allowed to be in here. I found feathers everywhere. They're like, whoa, this is like a play zone. They're very respectful of my shrine. They know better than to touch the shrine, but they feel like everything else is sort of free, limitless. So they're a little nervous and they get scared. They're like, oh no, we're not supposed to be in here. And it's like, no, it's really okay. When I'm in here, you're allowed to be here. It's okay. Otherwise, the door gets closed. Okay, so with that said, in Benebell's deck, we have 3 different fools that we can choose from. In this case, I'm going to vote. Not that anyone gets to vote with me, sorry. So I'm going to decide that we're using the initiate. And my rationale behind that, I don't know what makes my screen go lighter or darker. There we are. But what decided that for me is reading in the book, because we are seeking guidance for a possible new path. So since that is the case, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to shuffle it into the deck, and we're going to change the camera view. Okay, so here's our initiate. We're just going to go ahead and shuffle it into the deck. I'm like, woo, is this the right place? Is this the right place? Okay, so let's see what we got. First pile is, so this is, we're working right to left because we're following the pattern in Hebrew. So Yod, He, Vav, He, wands, cups, swords, pentacles. So in this pile, we are looking for the initiate. And it is not there.
Unknown caller.
Oh, heck. That startled the crap out of me. Oh, substitute teaching. Okay, well, it wasn't in this pile. Somebody always has to call the minute that you're working on something, right? Did I just see it and I missed it because I'm not focused? Here we go. Refocusing. Recalibrating. Here we are. Okay, so this is big. This is big. So we're in the swords pile. So, which kind of makes sense, right? Because the full moon that we're looking at right now, today, is in Libra, at least in the Western astrology, it's Libra. So, looking at that, the swords pile to me, air, the element of air, etc., that feels right. So as we go into the next 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, right? What we're looking at, and for whatever reason, it feels to me like we're looking, I haven't even checked the astrology, folks, so those who are into astrology, forgive me. You're probably seeing things and hearing things that you're like, yep, if you just checked your, you just checked on your ephemeris, you'd know this, Nat. But essentially where I'm going with this is, I feel like this is going to affect us not just for the next 2 weeks. I feel like we're looking at the next 4 to 6 for some reason. It could be that we've got an eclipse. Because I switched to a Tibetan calendar, I don't have as much Western astrological information, or even really all that much. It's a practice calendar rather than an astrological calendar, which tells me I really need to have an astrological calendar, or get an app or something. Something I can look at and see every day. But at any rate, what I'm seeing here, with us being in the swords pile is, we're looking at changing our mind and potentially changing our role and the way we see ourselves on our path. Okay? When we're looking at the swords pile often relates to people or situations where we're defining who we are in relationship to the greater world, the greater part of society. How do we bring our gifts, our path, our blessings, our dharma, if you will, right? Our purpose. How do we bring that to the world in a way that is useful, in a way that puts any leadership skills that we have to good use? Okay? So I feel like that's where we're coming from, and that's ultimately what we're in search of over the next, say, 4 to 6 weeks. It does feel to me like that we're looking at a longer term situation here. I'm just feeling into the ether here to see if there's, see if there's anything else that's coming through. Yeah, that's really it. It's looking at how to redirect our path, or how to refocus. That's a better word. Refocusing our path so that we know the way forward. We know the best way to make use of our gifts and talents in order to share them, right? To share them with the greater good. So that said, as we look to solve problems over the next, say, 4 to 6 weeks, interestingly, this time, yes, it is going to be through thinking. It means we need to stop, we need to pause, we need to clear the mind, and we need to get our minds focused in order to think straight. So solving problems is going to be a little bit more conventional in the way that society likes to think about solving problems. It may also be, because we're looking at the swords pile, intuitively I feel like we're going to be looking at increased communication. So it may too be that in order to solve problems, what we're need, especially on a path like this, is not just about thinking about it, but as we go to solve problems and issues that come up with other people or alongside other people, we want to be thinking too about, how do I communicate? How can I communicate more clearly? It may also indicate increased amounts of communication as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and collect the piles. And this, I'm about to do this the long way / hard way. Forgive me, what is it, South Node in Taurus, that tends to be the way I do things sometimes. I know that it's possible to count all the way around and do it as you go, but I tend to like to lay them out first and then count. Okay, so here is our Fool, the Initiate, which is spirit in search of experience. Including the Fool, we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that sounds about right. So we have the Nine of Swords as our first. Okay, and that's worth 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, this is going to be a fun reading as usual. We have the Ten of Swords. Interesting that both of the first two cards come out as swords, eh? Again, this is worth 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we've got 2. We've got 2 of them. I'm going to double check that. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's a 10 of Swords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we have 2 cards. We may be pulling out a second deck, y'all. It's possible that we may be pulling out a second deck. Let's go ahead and pull these out. I don't feel like this is a tough one. I think maybe we could just get further information here about what these 2 mean. I mean, let's go ahead and switch it around. Okay, so this does not feel like a particularly complicated reading. And I don't necessarily see this as a bad one either. It is simply a very, very straightforward reading. So I think essentially what we're seeing here is that we're going to go from a place, right, where we have spent a huge amount of time, you know, when we look specifically at our path, at moving forward, what do we need to do next? Everything that has given us, well, this is the haunt, right? So everything that's given us this sense of foreboding, anxiety, nightmares, fear, worry, concern, etc., about our place in the world, about our path, about what we want to do, how to do it, etc. You know, over the next 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to see that this is something that becomes more challenging. All right, it's going to stay with us a lot more. And because it's giving us that anxiety, I think we can look to our dreams as well for further information about the source of it, right? The source of that anxiety. But as we look at it and contemplate what that is, what we're going to be put into it. I mean, it's the sense of foreboding that comes before realizing that something's going to have to change, right? You know, a 9 is, you know, things have gone as far as they can go, right? They've gone as far as they can go. We cannot take it any further. There's something that has not necessarily been fully realized, right? In the same way that maybe there would be with a different element. So that knowing that, we've got to go ahead and maybe kill something on our path, right? We have to let something be destroyed, or we have to make a conscious choice to say, okay, that is not something that's going to work any longer, and we're going to have to find our way through it. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to mean that this is the 9 and the 10 of Swords. It's not like getting the Tower, okay? It's scary. Nobody likes to see these 2 cards, right? But sometimes it's a relief. Move forward from a place where you take what you have, what your collected knowledge, and move forward and start over. You know, it's the 10 is the ending that's also a beginning, right? Interesting here too, we've got, you know, the Sun and Gemini. 2 sides. I'm being intuitive here. I haven't actually read the book. This is gut level stuff you're getting here. So just being completely honest. But that is my sense of it. And I don't know that it's necessarily, again, everything. It's, I feel like we're looking at the mind, we're looking at ideas, we're looking at ways of communicating. We've got swords coming up as our 2 cards in a swords pile. So as we're looking at our path, we're looking at our way forward over the next few weeks, we're going to want to reconsider communication. We're going to reconsider the way we think about certain situations. This may be about releasing belief patterns, ideas, ways that we have previously been viewing the world, and letting them go, right? I know there's been so much of that in so many ways in the last year, but it's not over yet. We're not done. That process has slowed down somewhat. Okay, it has. But when we look at finding balance and love with other people, the way we communicate with them, that is, if we leave loads of things that are uncommunicated, lots of things that are unsaid, those kinds of things can build up and they haunt us. They wake us up at night. They give us anxiety. The minute we say them, it means that things cannot stay in a stasis any longer. So this paradigm where we live like this is now destroyed. We're not in that state of anxiety anymore. So we could see it that way too. We found a way to move forward. We found a way to move on. So what needs to be said? Right? Similarly, what ideas, thoughts, beliefs are haunting you? Okay? Can you, and this is Mars in Gemini, so can you give them voice? Can you give voice to them, put them in the sun in order that, whatever needs to be let go gets let go of, and whatever can be carried forward is there for you, right? But it's been purified, it's been tempered, and it's been transformed and shifted so that something new is possible. Okay, so I mean, this is pretty complete. I feel like it'd be nice to get another, and fun even. I mean, I wonder what cards could I pull out. I tell you what, folks, I'm going to have a look. I'm going to have a look at my stash of unbelievable decks and things that I own, and see if I can find us an oracle deck that will kind of complement the message that we're getting here. This feels very clear to me as we move forward over the next, 4 to 6 weeks. Right? I'll be right back. Okay, well, that didn't take very long at all. I also have the Angel Tarot by Travis McHenry, and for some reason, probably because they're both such wonderful metaphysicians, what's the word I want here? Occultists and magicians. I figured I would use Travis's Angel Tarot. And again, this is not a deck that I've really even worked with, but it feels right. It feels like the card, the deck to use. I should say, too, that it is, what's the word I want to use here? It is a tarot deck, but I feel because of its structure and because of the way that it works, it's going to be very helpful and functional as an oracle or as a complement to the deck we're working with. So I'm going to give these a quick shuffle and be right back. Oh, beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay. Metatron, Wheel of Fortune. So, wow, I love Archangel Metatron. Okay. So the card just simply says that Metatron is the Wheel of Fortune, the recording angel, advancement and progress, teaches, guides, and records events in the Book of Life. Feels completely in harmony with everything we've got here. All right. Looking at purely the Wheel of Fortune aspect here, it is a gamble. It is a gamble to step out of the 9 and into the 10, right? Especially when it's not going to be pleasant. But as soon as you do, the path clears. It becomes possible. You know what's next. And because I know what we've got coming, I know that this is what reading we have for this week. As we look at next week, we're looking at that path ahead. We'll factor these two cards in. So, it is a gamble. It is also perhaps in our best interest, right? It is the best path forward to take, to be willing to relinquish that stasis, right? This 9 is not accomplished. It's living in stasis. There isn't anything here that's particularly helpful because there's no moving forward, right? There's staying with what we know, which unfortunately is leaving us trapped and feeling horrible, right? Mentally, physically, emotionally, etc. It's haunting our sleep. It's haunting our thoughts. It's keeping us from moving forward. This is never pleasant. Oops, sorry. I keep wiggling the computer screen lately. This is never pleasant, but it's far better than stasis. The Wheel of Fortune tells us that moving forward is in our best interest. All right, let's see what else we can learn from Travis's LWB. Yeah. Oh, hell. Right at the beginning here. All right, so Archangel Metatron. Right. Okay, doesn't give us a whole lot more information. Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more because God took him away. Right? So that's interesting. Genesis 5:24. Been a long time since I studied any Christianity, but I still remember a lot of it. This is interesting because Enoch was who became Metatron, right? He was turned from a mortal into the OA. For those of you who have seen the TV show, right? He transforms. The Archangel Metatron teaches, guides, and records events in the Book of Life. He rules over the order of Seraphim. And he's the recording angel. I mean, I feel like this is telling us too, we look at like leadership. Again, we were in the swords pile. We look at leadership, we look at our path. On a very mundane level, this could be about record keeping, and making sure that we ensure our ability to advance, progress, move forward, etc. through, excellent record keeping. In terms of leadership and in terms of just walking our own path, how can we possibly live in our truth if we're not giving it full voice, right? The minute we give full voice to our truth, it frequently means that something is sacrificed, right? Something ends in order that the new path begins. So I feel too that this is really an encouragement, that in order to move ourselves forward, in order to get closer to our Dharma, get closer to our path, get closer to the direction we want to take, we're going to have to employ some really, I think that's not maybe the worst word to employ here, but, some brutal honesty, some really major honesty that allows us to look at things with clarity and make informed and helpful choices, in order that we move on our path. I would say too, over the next, 4 to 6 weeks, invoking the Archangel Metatron, which is something I used to do regularly in my practice when it was still very Christian focused. So that tells you how long ago that was. And I found him to be really transformative, especially where, writing is concerned. So maybe not even recording things, but writing. Yeah, like as a writer, also we're looking at swords. If there's this idea that's been brewing inside of you, to write a book, to write a blog post, a letter. So, oh, heck, look at that. I'm making such a mess of it, etc. This is the time. The next 4 to 6 weeks is the time to take this, get past the fear and the anxiety and take that step forward. It's scary and it won't necessarily be the way you expect it, but it's the best way. It's still the best way forward. And we have a guide here to offer support and to offer wisdom along that path. So there we are. All right, friends, we'll keep this with us as we look at the next 4 to 6 weeks and the path forward. There's usually a point at which it's like, okay, I think we're past the meaning of these cards. I'm kind of done with them now. I don't feel like their influence is there anymore, and we'll know when that is, and we'll let them go. But in the meantime, a thank you to Benebell again for your hard work, your influence, your intelligence, and all of the incredible shared information, knowledge, wisdom, etc. that you offer to us so freely. Somehow it seems amazingly like a tribute to get so many swords cards, right? The swords pile, the swords cards, etc. Because I know that pretty sure that Benebell's astrology is all going to be air. And I know the Queen of Swords is close to her. So, yeah. All right, friends. Take care. Have a beautiful week. And I will see you again very soon. Bye.